Welcome to another edition of the Green Beige Fantasy Spot. As always, that is AJ. He is the green. I am Ken. I am the beige. And we are here to break down some of what happened here in week 2 and help get you prepared for week 3. AJ, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. I feel like I had a really good week 2 for fantasy. So yeah, excited.
Well, as good as my week was in week 1 in fantasy, my week 2 was really rough. So as I told you folks, I am in 5 leagues this season. And last week I went 1-4. Sorry, I went 4-1. I went 4-1 and feeling great. And this week I went 1-4. I was only close in one of those leagues. And all the others I got blown out because I'm pretty sure that not just me had some players that let us down this week in fantasy. But before we get to the goats, we have some flowers to give out. So AJ, who are your fantasy heroes for week 2?
So personally, topping my list is Aaron Jones. He helped me to secure a much needed victory in one of my leagues, and mind you, I have him in more than one. So, and after the egg that he laid for me in week 1, I really needed to bounce back, because if he had even given half of the numbers that he gave in week 2 in week 1, I could have won in that week as well. So I felt like he owed me this. So thanks, Aaron. And yeah, so he's definitely my one of. And then in addition, from my team, another standout performer so far through the first 2 weeks, Tyler Lockett. Yeah, he again put up some solid points. I don't remember which league this was in. I'm sorry, but yeah, I was. Yeah, and I'm kind of really glad I took a chance with Tyler. I knew there was some other drafts I was trying to target him and ended up losing out, but got him in one of them, and he has repaid my faith in both weeks so far. So yeah, for week 2 is Aaron Jones and Tyler Lockett at the top of my list. Obviously, there are others, but just the ones that did it for me, yeah, those two guys.
Well, as for the purposes of our show, I always say that we try to use our show league for reference. My team had one hero this week, and that is one Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup gave me 40 fantasy points with a line of 9 receptions, 163 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That fantasy um, factory that they have over with the Los Angeles Rams. If you have Matthew Stafford, he was also pretty good, 278 and 2 touchdowns. But of course, when we step outside of who was just on my team and look at the top performers for this fantasy so far, Kyler Murray, he is on an absolute tear. Kyler Murray has 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, along with 31 yards rushing and 1 touchdown this week alone. So far for the season, Kyler Murray is the top performing quarterback with 689 yards, 7 touchdowns, as well as 51 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. So anyone who has Kyler Murray on their squad right now has to be feeling pretty good. Patrick Mahomes is second. Tom Brady, he is third. 655 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6 yards rushing, but you're not expecting any kind of rushing to come from one Thomas Brady. Well, Lamar Jackson, he's the rushing champ in the quarterbacks with 193 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns to go with 474 yards passing. 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So when I look at like some of these names for the quarterbacks, it really does not surprise me at all. Derrick Henry, he had a huge bounce back game this week. In standard scoring, Derrick Henry put up 47.7 points, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, along with six receptions, and 55 yards. And in our league, he gave you 54 points. So for sure, this week when it came to the running backs, he and Aaron Jones, as you just mentioned, those were the two biggest performers for that position.
I mean, I should have mentioned as well. I do have Jones in this league, in our league. So I was behind by a good few, but I have him and TJ Hawkinson that played both last night. So together that was like a total of like 65, 63, 60.
Yeah, 63 points.
Yeah, 63 points between the two of them. That helped me come from about 30 something down to get my first win in this league. So now I'm 1-1.
Yeah, and just so that we keep the folks up to date with what is happening in our show league. Last week, I'm just trying to get the page to cooperate.
Let me also add, right?
Sure,
if you remember at the end of last week, I said that a sleeper would be for a start last week would be Mike Williams, right?
Yes.
Mike Williams once again had a really good year. I mean, and I said sleeper in terms of like, because Williams is one of those receivers that if you play fantasy enough throughout the years, you know that he could have this one breakout game for the season and then the rest are absolute duds. But looking at his place in this offense now, it seems like he's becoming like a really favorite target. Obviously not more than Keenan Allen, but behind Keenan Allen of Justin Herbert. And he is getting a lot of attention. And he did again in week 2. I don't even think he's rostered in our league. No, Mike Williams is actually free. Mike Williams is actually free in our league. I don't know why I'm telling you this. We're in the same league. But anyway, he had 7 receptions of 10 targets for 91 yards, another touchdown. 22 points. Well, this is in PPR, but it was the same as his total from week 2. Mike Williams is looking like a good fantasy option to have in your team right now. And in terms of the standard scoring, he's actually in, where did I just see his name?
Yeah, he was top 10.
Rounding off the top 10 in terms of wide receiver scoring.
Yes.
The standard scoring is going to be a little bit lower, but yeah, after he's running off the top 10 in terms of like some of the other names. But we'll get into that a bit later.
Yeah. So this week in the Green Beach Fantasy Football League, the Alberta Tyrant took down the Beach Bombers 171.5 points to 150 points. The London Learners, they beat Team Berks 163 to 152. Kauai Knott, they took down the Long Bay Bayonets 178.5 to 160. Team Club Sheshe got their first win of the season, 156 over Denver Ravens Revenge 141. And your Ad Hawkinson took down Eckler and Koch 131, losing to 165.5. So at this point, when we look at the standings, we have the Beach Bombers, Long Bay Bayonets, Alberta Tyrant, and Kauai Knott. They're all tied on 1-1. Wow. Team Berks is unfortunately winless, so they are bringing up the rear. Over on the western side, that was the east first. On the west, London Learners, well, apparently they're learning pretty quick because they have 2-0. They're the only undefeated team in the league so far. And then everyone else is 1-1. Team Club Sheshe, Denver Ravens Revenge, Eckler and Koch, and Ad Hawkinson. So Things are tight. Things are tight 2 weeks in.
Yeah. Majority of the league is 1-on-1. Everything's
Yes.
close, boy. Yeah.
Yep. Only one undefeated team, only one winless team. And of course, week 3 is probably going to skin this entire table up on its head. Now, AJ, you made mention just now of a sleeper that was Mike Williams. He was definitely a surprise. When I'm looking at this list, I don't think there's a bigger surprise so far to the fantasy season than Brandon Cooks, because Brandon Cooks, especially being coupled with a quarterback who is considered to be risk averse, like Tyrod Taylor, you would not expect that the burner Brandon Cooks, the deep threat Brandon Cooks, would be a top fantasy performer so far. But Brandon Cooks this season has started scoring. He had 22.8 points, which was good enough for 9 receptions, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. And I am not even sure if he is available in our league, but that is a
Nah,
quick.
he's rostered some. I'm not sure who the team is, but he's rostered.
Yes, he is rostered, and he had 22.5 points for week 2. So whoever has him, they're in good standing with him. And then in the tight end position, sorry. Well, there's no surprise. Travis Kelce was definitely the best performer this week. 7 receptions for 109 yards and a touchdown. Gronk continues to baffle me every week with 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions, 39 yards. Robert Tonyan, he had a good game. It was good to see him come to the fore because he had me a little concerned after last week. But then again, everybody in the Green Bay offense might have had some people concerned. 3 receptions, 52 yards, 1 touchdown last night. Well, when I say last night, again, this is where we have to remind the viewers we are recording this on Tuesday. You'll see this on Thursday. So don't be surprised if we slip and say last night once or twice. No, AJ, the GOATs. And this for me, who had gone 1-4 this week. This is where I got a lot to say. You see, my guys, my Saints, just like how the Green Bay Packers weren't very good in week 1, my Saints were equally putrid in week 2. Alvin Kamara gave me 5 rushing yards. 5 rushing yards. He was slated to have 20.3 points according to our projections in our league for this week. Alvin Kamara, 8 rushes, 5 yards, 4 receptions on 6 targets, 25 yards. A grand total of 7.5 points. If you want to see where I lost the majority of my week, Alvin Kamara, sir, you did that to me. You owe me. And then Jameis Winston, for those who had him, he was on my bench. Jameis Winston was 111 yards, 2 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown. That rushing touchdown saved his day completely because he gave me 20 points on my bench. And for those who would have started him, I'm pretty sure that you were in the same position I am in this week where we lost, because my Saints let us all down. They let the whole, in the words of Oliver Queen, they have failed this city. AJ, who are your GOATs this week?
So the number one that I was coming in here to vent about, and I don't even know how I feel now about drafting him, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I really thought that he was primed to have the kind of season where Kansas City was going to put the ball in his hands a bit more, because he was fairly decent last year, right? And they got rid of Damian Williams, because I think they kept Darrell, but they got rid of Damian Williams, who is, I believe, in Chicago or some.
Yes, he's in Chicago.
Chicago, right? I know it's some team wearing blue. In any case, so I'm like, all right, so they're really clearing the way for this to be Edwards-Helaire in that backfield. And it seems that I could not be more wrong. The ball is staying in Patrick Mahomes' hand more than often right now. And he's never been a huge part of the passing game So if the ball is on the ground, he is absolutely useless. This man gave me 46 yards on the ground and the fumble, right? For a grand old total of 3.5 points. So, like I tell you, like I was in a hole going into Monday night's game. I did have Aaron Jones and TJ Hawkinson to play, but I wasn't like too. I wasn't trying to get myself too worked up thinking that I would get as much points as I needed, because I know there's like I was not expecting 3.5 points from Edwards-Helaire, and he did absolutely nothing in week 1 as well. So that really threw me off, and I'm at the point now where I don't know if I want to persist with him for the entire season. But that's another discussion. I don't think there's no one else. Like my bench there's no one really on the bench. Yeah, I started TJ. My backup tight end is Robert Tonyan. Still got a decent 3 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown for 14 points. But obviously, I'm not starting him over TJ Hawkinson. So I did I did have one receiver on my bench. It is 2. Both of the receivers on my bench outperformed my starting receivers. Started Stephon Diggs, 16 points, saved by a touchdown because he had 4 receptions for 60 yards. Mm-hmm. Jamar Chase decided to give him the benefit of the doubt again this week. Maybe I shouldn't have. But hey, 2 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. Again, saved by the touchdown. 13 points, Ken. Meanwhile, I have Cortland Sutton with 27.5 on my bench. And right next to him, DJ Moore from Carolina, a good 21.5. Look, if I didn't win this week, right, I would be pressed. Because I had so many points accumulated on my bench. And then, like I said, this Edwards-Helaire situation is really getting to me. It's 2 weeks in and I want to trade this guy.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that we as fantasy managers, we have to start thinking about, because sometimes it's like sell high, buy low. If you're looking at players and you're seeing deficiencies in your own squad, and maybe there's a player out there that can probably bolster that deficiency. Now, obviously, no one was going to trade Derrick Henry after laying an egg last week, and you would probably have to give up everybody on your team to get him this week after that production that he made this week just gone. However, there are one thing that you can always do is you can look and see what deficiencies your team has and where your team is strong. And you can then look at your opponents and look at your other managers and see, okay, maybe this guy, he has a strength here, but he has the deficiency in which I am strong. So maybe we can work something out. I can give him somebody, maybe not my number one, because I'm not going to get his number one, but maybe I can make something happen and get some help for my team. And you can be sure that at this point, I'm still trying my best to hold on to what I did in the draft, because I came out of my drafts thinking that I did a pretty good job. But I'm 1-1 in every single league, and it got blown out in most of the matchups this week. And most of that I do know is because a lot of the guys I had selected had down weeks. So I'm going down the list of my team. Mm-hmm. I've only had, maybe, if I'm being generous, 3 good performances in my entire squad, starters and bench. Matthew Stafford, 44.5. Cooper Kupp, 40. Najee Harris, 19.5. After that is Alvin Kamara, 7.5. Allen Robinson, 10. Darren Waller, 11.5. Matt Gay, 9. Okay. So 9 for a kicker is not bad. 9 for a kicker is a solid production. Mm-hmm. Logan Cook, 4 punts, 8 points. 1 punt inside the 20. Adam Thielen, 15.5. Kareem Hunt, 7. 7. Yeah. My backup running back gave me 7. My star gave me 7.5. So clearly I picked the right one. Mike Davis from Atlanta, 13.5. Corey Davis, 2.5. 2 receptions, 8 yards. I mean, when you take into consideration that his quarterback is throwing the ball to the other team most of the time, then maybe that is to be expected.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon the third, 9.5 points. After running all over the Giants in week 1, he gives me 31 yards.
Telling you, I ain't trust that one.
And then Austin Hooper from the Cleveland Browns. It is my fault though for picking a Brown that is a pass catcher. 9 points, and then Jameis for 20. So I had a rough week. I had a really bad week this week. And to help you guys not have such a bad week heading into next week, now we're going to get into this week's injury report. And this week, our injury report does have a lot of things that matter because we have some quarterbacks who are down. We have some who are definitely out. And this will have some direct fantasy consequences as well. So, AJ, first up, Tyrod Taylor. He has a hamstring injury. We know for sure he is not playing this week. So, when you look at Davis Mills and the Texans, Davis Mills is now the quarterback coming in. How do you feel going forward about the Texans and their players for fantasy?
So apparently Davis Mills has taken some snaps this season already, like 8 or something like that. I didn't see them because nobody watching the Texans. I'm pretty sure there's probably footage out there somewhere. However, I'm saying this to say I don't know what he can do or how he throws the ball, But what I do know for sure is that going into this week where he is actually going to be the starting quarterback, until I see, like, mind you, I do not have any Houston offensive player in any of my teams. I drafted David Johnson on the fly and like dropped him after the first week or something like that. But with regards to, so we're speaking about Brandon Cook, who's actually ranked 8th in NFL fantasy. He's had 2 pretty solid weeks. I am going to, if I had Brandon Cooks though, I would fade him in every single format this week until I see what Davis Mills can do. And mind you, unless it is that you absolutely do not have someone better on your bench, if you can avoid playing Brandon Cooks for right now, because you know what he is, he's a deep threat, so that's why he racks up so much yardage. In the first week, I'm pretty sure he had a big throw. He had like 130 something yards. We don't know if Davis Mills has that type of arm talent to be able to find Cooks down the field. And I can't even tell you I'm familiar with everyone else in that offense. But I know looking at the game in week 2, I was looking through some of the stats, and Cooks was by far Tyrod Taylor's favorite in that offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's going to translate directly until Davis Mills, but like I said, that is a main with Tyrod out. That is a main concern right now. Brandon Cook's production, fade him in week 3 until you know exactly what you get from Davis Mills.
So you talked about the wide receiver, but also the running backs. No, Tyrod Taylor was, a guy that believed in the check down. He will take the check down if it's there, especially if the guys down the field are not open. So last week we saw a good touchdown catch and run from the guy that left here in Denver and went to Houston, and I can see his face.
Lindsay?
Yes, Philip Lindsay. Yes, Philip Lindsay. He had a good catch and run. No, maybe Lindsay becomes a flex play, someone that you can probably take on a flyer because he is active in the passing game. And Davis Mills may have to look close to the line of scrimmage because nothing really is going to be open for him down the field. But it is an extreme risk to take with anybody from Houston, especially this week. We need to see something from Davis Mills first before we start putting our faith in any of those Houston Texans. Another quarterback who is dealing with injuries and may or may not play is Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, he has sprains in both ankles. And if you saw our episode yesterday, we spoke a little bit about sort of bits. So
Yeah, we did.
when I look at Carson Wentz, especially for the potential that he is most likely not going to play this week, and Jacob Eason is his backup, who came in and promptly threw an interception. I am probably going to fade all wide receivers with the Colts. The Colts do not have the worst matchup this week with the Titans because the Titans defense has been porous again this season. But when you take into consideration that there's a huge unknown when it comes to the quarterback, then anybody catching passes from the quarterback is probably something that you want to stay away from at this point. That does also have fantasy implications for the running backs, because if you do not expect the team to be able to throw the ball, then you are going to stack the box to try to force them to throw the ball. So people like Jonathan Taylor, Naeem Hines, Marlon Mack, you guys may be good sit candidates this week if there are better options available on your bench.
I should have added as well, the Texans matchup this week is against the Panthers. And as I mentioned yesterday on the Green Bay show, in terms of the Panthers right now are ranking number 1 in terms of points given up, right? And well, the average over the first 2 games. So it is going to be a tough matchup in that secondary. I don't think, well, your grown game was off against them, but I don't think that your receivers did that well either, if I remember correctly.
What
Yeah,
about
so,
how 111 points? So that would tell you how good they did.
yeah. So yeah, that and another reason why week 3 is to cool expectations. If you have to start Cooks, just cool expectations on him. But if you can, fit him.
Yep. Another quarterback who's hurt is Baker Mayfield. He had a shoulder injury causing him to leave the field at one point during the game, but he did return and he did finish the game. So, AJ, that's your boy. What should we be thinking about these Brownies and Baker with this potential injury?
I'm seeing so far positive news about Baker, so I'm not too worried as yet. And the thing is with Juice going on the IR, Jarvis Landry heading to IR. To be honest, he didn't even play a huge part. He had 1 catch in week 2 against Houston, 1 for 9 yards. Don't think he did any rushing, no. So he wasn't like hugely influential in the offense. And as you were mentioning before, there is a lot of that ball has been going around. The question is, would BJ be coming back? And I think that would have a lot more, a greater implication on what happens with the other receivers in this team. But I didn't before I drafted Austin Hooper in, I think, is it? No, you have Hooper in this league. Sorry, so I'm thinking about another league. But either way, I only take Austin Hooper as a backup quarterback to fill in when my starter is on his bye week. So I'm saying that to say I haven't had much faith in anybody from this receiving core, whether it be tight end or wide receiver of that Cleveland team. So whether Baker is on the field or not, I don't think that any of them are worthy of fantasy consideration on a weekly basis. It might be the matchup, you never know, but it definitely ain't it this week, no.
Agreed. I like it that I picked Austin Hooper just as a backup stash. Hope that he gave me something when I have a bye week for my incumbent, who is Darren Waller of the Raiders, and his quarterback is also dealing with an injury. Derek Carr, they're saying that they expect that John Gruden is saying that he believes that Carr will play this week. But of course, that is coaches speak. He can say whatever he wants. I'm a little concerned. I'm very concerned if
Yeah.
Derek Carr cannot play this week. Derek Carr has been a standout so far in fantasy. He has been one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy so far. On not ESPN, on NFL, he is the eighth ranked quarterback in fantasy thus far. And in terms of the top 10, and probably for the entire league, yes, actually, for the entire league, he has the most passing yards. He has 817 passing yards this season in 2 weeks. So if he is not there, then everybody in the Raiders takes a massive hit. Um, I have Darren Waller, as I said just now, and I'm very, very scared if Derek Carr can't play because we know that his backup is also already on IR, that being Marcus Mariota. That leaves Nathan Peterman. And nobody is trusting the arm of Nathan Peterman to do anything good. So yeah, I'm fading some Raiders if I see that Carr is out.
What I would say to that, right, is because you may find Waller doing more intermediate roles, I feel like you could still take the chance on Waller because he is that good. He may actually present a viable option to Peterman because again, it's not that I have faith in Peterman. I just have more faith in Darren Waller to still give some level of production. Who I would faith from the offense is Henry Ruggs, if in fact it is Peterman that is playing. But I don't know. Waller it is kind of hard to say you're gonna bench Darren Waller. Like I would have to see an absolute dip and know that Peterman cannot get this ball to this guy. And the opposing defense is taking him out of the game completely. Like I would almost have to see it 2 weeks in a row for me to bench Waller. I would still play Waller just because.
Mm-hmm.
But Henry Ruggs, nah, fitted.
Well, I have no choice but to start Waller because my option is Austin Hooper.
Austin
So
Hooper.
I'm gonna have to ride with Waller
And you
until the
see,
wheels fall off.
that's the thing. In most cases, if you drafted Waller, your number two is probably like there's probably a bigger disparity in between Waller and whoever is your backup tight end. So it's Waller is still he's still too good to just bench. But yeah, I
If you
get
didn't if you didn't get one of the top four tight ends in fantasy, there's a massive if you got one of the top four tight ends in fantasy, there's a massive gap between him and whoever your backup is. And if you didn't get one of the top four tight ends in fantasy, and there's not a big gap between who is your number one or your number two, chances are that means that your number one ain't the guy that you wanted to be your number one. So tight end is one of those feast and famine positions. Now, AJ, before we get out of here, we just kind of talked about guys that you should sit. Now, who are guys, especially maybe based on matchup or opportunity, that we should consider starting this week?
So I think this stuff reloaded. I was just looking at my team specifically to see what because in my team I had DJ Moore on the bench last week. I most likely DJ is going to head back into my lineup. And Jamar Chase is coming out. I don't trust Jamar Chase against the Pittsburgh defense, but I do have faith in DJ against Houston's defense. It has not been good so far for the season, especially that secondary. So I'm going to take the risk on him. I can guarantee you, Cortland and I don't know. Like I'm debating based on this matchup because the Jets actually. Who did the Jets? The Jets had us last week, and so I mean, it's not like we have any top receivers in any case. So that's not a good metric to judge it by. But I think that their secondary was actually it was actually fairly competent in dealing with receivers, and I don't think they take Sutton out of the game completely. But I feel like in my case, like I have more to gain starting DJ Moore. So yeah, I mean, look, if you have DJ, I think he would be a good look for this week.
Now, I'm looking at my squad, at the players I have, and I'm pretty set on my starting lineup, but somebody that I'm considering starting this week is Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, he is currently on my bench, but he is 15.4 points projected. And then I have Allen Robinson at 15.9. I'm not starting Allen Robinson with potentially Justin Fields on his first start when there is a potential shootout between Seattle and Minnesota. Because
Yeah.
while Minnesota likes to run the ball, Thielen still gets a lot of work. And while he gets a lot of work,
Does.
he is he and Justin Jefferson as the two main receiving threats. You know, there's no real Irv Smith, the tight end, he's done for the year. So there's opportunity there.
I guess I haven't seen anything about him, so I guess he
He's
hasn't
not
factored into the
featuring.
offense at all.
No, he isn't featuring. So then the potential there is that I'm going to most likely start Thielen over Robinson for this week coming. There's no right now. I'm just going through some of the other teams to see some names and see if maybe this might be a good person to start. No, you said that you wouldn't trust Jamar Chase this week, and Jamar Chase hasn't earned the trust over the first 2 weeks. But see, T. Higgins has been getting quite a lot of work in that offense for the Bengals, and they are going to have to throw the ball because the run defense of Pittsburgh has been relatively stout. You can get after their corners, you can get after the secondary. So T. Higgins could be somebody that, depending on what you have going on, he may be someone worth a flyer on. Daniel Jones, quarterback for the New York Football Giants. If you don't trust your starter, he is going up against the Falcons, and the Falcons defense has been abysmal.
Yeah.
He is a great guy. He is a great guy to pick up and play this week if you have him.
Yeah. Also looking at Team Shea, but he has a couple of good ones. Like at this point, like no one sits Hopkins and no one sits DeAndre, and then Tyler Lockett, as you said, and you just mentioned the shootout. So that's a good pairing to start. But I was looking at his bench. He has Robbie Anderson on the bench again. Someone from Carolina could be very useful, especially Robbie Anderson, and that chemistry he has found once again with Sam Darnold. So
I'm glad you didn't call him what you usually call him.
Yeah. It almost slipped, It almost slipped, but caught myself. Yeah.
But I know for Denver Ravens revenge, he's expecting Tyreek Hill to do a lot better than he did last week. The Baltimore Ravens did a great job taking him out the game. He suffered with 5.5 points, but he should definitely be back up to speed this week against the Chargers, whose secondary, well, we don't know of their secondary being a lockdown secondary like the Broncos. The Broncos have a great secondary, so anybody on the Jets. We've seen, I guess, what mostly would be the worst of Zach Wilson. So hopefully he should be better this week. But the Broncos defense does not inspire any real feelings of, you're going to take a risk on Wilson and the Jets. But if you have the Broncos defense, I'll probably start them because there may be a takeaway or two coming your way.
Fair.
All right, AJ. Now, looking ahead to our fantasy and the matchups that we have coming up this week, I don't think I mentioned them, so I'll just run through them very quickly. Beige Bombers, we're going up against Kauai Knot. Long Bay Bayonets, they're hosting Team Club Sheshe. Team Burks and Alberta Tyrant, they're going up against each other. At and Koch, they have the London Learners. And you, sir, you have Denver Ravens Revenge. So,
be a close one. Predicted to be a close one.
Yep. It's going to be interesting to see how these things shape up.
Yeah.
This week, as always, it is going to be exciting. I prefer to lose in a blow than lose close. So if I'm going to lose, Lord, let it be. Let me get smoked. But right now, I'm projected to win by 13 points. Of course, projections mean nothing when the
Oh,
games
oh
actually
wow.
get started. All
Yeah.
right, AJ, I think we can leave it there for the fantasy spot this week. Now, of
Mhm.
course, you guys know we have the pick'em, which is we're going to be making our picks later today. That usually happens in the last hour before the games get going. We are both again going 2-1 this week. So for the season, we are 4-2, and we will update on our I will update as I make my picks with those who have been picking with us as to who is where, but I'm pretty sure nobody has gone 3-0 yet for a week. But it is fun. Hopefully this week, AJ, you do not pick the same teams that I pick.
I'm trying not to, you know. I'm trying, trust me, I'm trying not to.
Yeah, but I mean, this week the games on the primetime slots are Panthers, Texans, Packers, 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys. So well, we'll just see who you pick. I think I know who I'm picking already, but you'll have to listen out for that a little later on today. So, as always, for the Green Beach Fantasy Spot, that is AJ in the blue shirt today. He's the green. I'm in the green shirt. I'm the beige. I'm Ken, and we will see you next